Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with three key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent. Good evening, malcontents. My name is David. I am the malcontent. Today is Wednesday, April 14th, 2021. In a normal year, tomorrow would be tax day, but it's been pushed out once again to May 17th because of ongoing COVID. So you have a little bit more than a month to get those taxes in. Let me pull in my co-host, Jennifer. How are you doing this evening?
I am doing well. I'm a little bit tired, but it's warm out. It's beautiful. It's sunny, and yeah. Other than that,
it is definitely sunny, and we are on the brink of maybe a record-setting streak of warm weather for April. 2016, we had a long streak where we actually got into the 80s in April, if people have already forgotten about that. We won't see anything like all-time record high of 89 degrees, but we probably could get close to 80 on Sunday.
That's very exciting to me.
It is, because it has been cooler than average for 2.5 months. It's not all good news, though, Jennifer. We have it up on our website. Fire weather advisory out for the southern, southwest, and central part of Washington state. Humidity is really low. Wind's going to pick up over the weekend. And there's a lot of dry brush already out there.
I know. With the summer and the sunshine, always comes the bad of the fires. And that's the part that's terrible, because then the smoke gets really bad and it's hard to do anything outside in the beautiful weather. So, yeah, definitely a catch to the good weather forthcoming.
Yeah, and up on our website, we put the URL up there for you, malcontentnews.com. There's a story up there on how you can get ready for fire weather season and the steps that you should be taking now, not waiting until potentially we are in choking clouds of smoke like we were in 2018 and like we were last year, just to add to our fun last year. Jennifer, there's a thing I want to start, which is things you might have missed on TikTok. I know we have a number of malcontents that are like, I don't want to get on TikTok. I get it, right? There's concerns, Chinese government tracking, yada, yada. But there's some really good content creators over there.
Yep, there are. I said to you, we always share, like in the chats and stuff, the various TikToks we find relevant or amusing. So yeah, there are some really good content creators over there.
And Jennifer, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. This one you sent to me, and I just can't get enough of it.
Tell me you're not liberal without telling me you're not liberal. I do not absorb information from the lamestream media. I get all my news from reputable sources, like my uncle in Arkansas. Vegetables? Hell no! I only eat meat stuffed with meat, covered in different kinds of meat, and then wrapped in a pocket made of meat, and then deep fried in fats taken from meat. My personality starts and stops at Donald Trump. My wife is a rifle. I am incredibly insecure, but I mask that insecurity with a little trick I like to call Jordan Peterson. Once a week, I write a Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity romantic fan fiction. Every morning, I make a piece of avocado toast and then shoot it with my rifle wife. My resume is a photocopy of the U.S. Constitution, which I love, but have never actually read.
I knew you'd love the last part about the Constitution, so I was like, I have to send this to David and his rifle wife. Like,
that's where I lose it. I can keep it together right up to rifle wife, and that's where I'm just like, that's it. It's genius. Jennifer, that video was actually taken down by TikTok for about 12 hours because it was mass reported by the people that claim they don't like cancel culture for hate speech.
Oh, okay. Like, what in there can they point to that's factually inaccurate? They don't
All right, and with that levity, are we ready to start the show at our land acknowledgement?
We are. Malcontent News comes to you from Seattle, Washington, the occupied homelands of Coast Salish peoples. We are grateful to live and work as guests on these lands, the land which touches the shared waters of all tribes and bands within the Duwamish, Suquamish, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot nations. This land acknowledgement is but one small gesture in the ongoing process of working toward repairing and sustaining relations with Coast Salish lands, waters, peoples, and their other than human kin.
Thank you so much for that, Jennifer. I think on the next break, I'm going to go make sweet love to my rifle wife. And with that, this is the part of the show where we tell everybody, please spam those hearts. Go ahead and mess with the algorithm on Facebook and let people know that there is great content going on here. Also, if you're on Twitter, you can also spam hearts over there. For those of you who are on Twitch or YouTube going, I can't spam hearts to the guy in the funny cowboy hat. You can just put like a long line of hearts or use those emotes on Twitch. You can tell the admins and the mods and Jennifer and David that you love them, just not in a creepy way. And Jennifer, with that, I think we're ready to get to our truly first story.
Okay.
Every now and then, something happens in the world, and there is universal outrage, and it is deserved, and it is sudden, and it is swift. And Jonathan Pentland of Fort Jackson, South Carolina, is just the individual that is experiencing this kind of rage for his actions. 22-year-old DeAndre, no last name given, was walking in his neighborhood. That's an important part to this story. DeAndre has a medical condition, as reported on Heavy.com, and he's known by people, and he's also known by the police department and in the service community, and he's receiving community outreach services. 42-year-old Jonathan Pentland, he's an E7. He was just promoted in the Army. That's Sergeant First Class. He's a newly minted drill instructor also. And he had a problem with DeAndre walking in the neighborhood. Going to roll this clip. It's not quite warning sensitive material, but some people may find this really gross.
Go away right now.
Call the police.
Hey, they've already been called. They're just waiting.
Taking fights with who?
You know what? Maybe you should hang on a little longer. We'll see how it goes. Then we won't have to get the report by ourselves.
What is it you're doing here?
Walking.
Then
walk
walk.
out.
Okay, and that's what I was doing. She came out of the house. and ran
Well, you've been here like 15 minutes now.
Let's go. Walk away.
Keep walking.
Walk away.
I already walked away.
Walk away right now. You need help?
You got this on camera.
I'm happy to help you. I didn't hit you. There's a difference between
Pretty sure
punching
you were
you.
the aggressor, buddy.
You're aggressing on their
When
neighborhood.
someone came running, that's
Walk
the
back.
house.
You better walk away. You walk away. You're talking to my wife right now.
That's your wife?
Walk away.
I didn't do
Walk
anything
away.
to your wife to speak.
Check it out. You either walk away or I'm going to carry your ass out of here.
Dude, if you touch
What do you
me,
want to do?
You better not touch me.
Or
I'm
what?
not arguing
What are you going to do?
You up on me.
Let's go. Walk
I'm not.
away.
I didn't do anything to you.
I'm about to do something to you. You better
I didn't
start
do
walking.
anything to her. I didn't do anything to her.
You better start walking
So
right
when
now.
you come after me like that,
I ain't coming
you're
after
the one in the
you.
wrong.
You're in the wrong neighborhood, motherfucker.
I
Get
live
out.
here, sir.
Get out.
I live here, sir.
Where? Where's your house? What's your address?
Maybe we should walk you home.
You can't walk me home.
Well, you bet. You want to bet what I can do?
I live here, sir.
Okay,
Right
what's
now,
your
you're
address?
harassing the
I'm
neighborhood.
not harassing anyone walking through the neighborhood I live in, sir.
Where? 'Cause check it out. We are a tight-knit community.
Okay.
We
How
take
long
care
have
of
you
each
been
other.
here? How long
A
have
hell
you
of a
been
lot
living
longer than your ass, because
How
I
long
have
have you
never
been
seen
living
you
here?
before in my
How long
life.
have you been living here?
That's
Why
none
does
of your
that even
business.
matter to you?
How long have you been
It
living
doesn't
here?
matter. You know what? Get the hell out of my face.
You've been
Get
here
out of my
right
face.
You walked up to me.
Check it out, motherfucker. I ain't playing with you. You either get your ass moving, or I'm gonna move you.
You smell drunk.
You want to bet?
You are drunk.
I'm about to show you what I can do.
I would suggest that
You better walk away. Walk away. Walk away.
I'm walking. You keep following me, sir.
There's only one way out of here. And it's right over there.
There's multiple ways out of here, sir.
You want to bet? Walk away.
Jennifer, there's 40 seconds of that clip on the cutting room
Yeah.
floor. In the interest of sensitivity to the content owner, copyright rules, and brevity,
Yeah.
DeAndre flips the script on Jonathan and asks him, well, how long have you lived here? And Jonathan's response to that was, why does that matter? But Jonathan seemed pretty obsessed on why a physically or mentally ill, getting aid, who lives in the neighborhood, black individual, was walking through his neighborhood. And Jennifer, I know you have a little more information about, as Jonathan was saying, we watch out for each other and the neighbors. Why don't you go tell us about how long he's lived in the hood?
So, Mr., you're in the wrong fucking neighborhood, which basically meant you're in a white neighborhood, has only lived in the neighborhood since May of 2020. So not even an entire year. And certainly probably not long enough with that attitude and the attitude of his charming wife to build a sense of community, at least not a tight-knit one.
Well, what was going on is obviously his wife wasn't filming. There were other multiple individuals in the neighborhood that were filming. One of the things I want to call out right away, this is the absolute best thing you can do if you're seeing a racist situation going on. And this was an ideal example of how to get justice from a camera. They kept it a safe distance. They didn't engage. They made it clear that they were going to protect DeAndre if he needed it. And they worked to keep him calm, but without escalating, without getting anyone's faces. And they stayed on the sidewalk. All the check boxes there. The police showed up. Pentland was cited for the destruction of DeAndre's phone. That's the part that didn't get on the video clip. He apparently assaulted DeAndre much harder, and in that broke his phone. The sheriff office said they couldn't charge when they were called out on Monday for assault. They could only charge for the destruction of the phone, despite multiple neighborhood witnesses going, but he was assaulted.
Yeah.
That video clip we showed went viral late last night. And now we have a video clip from the sheriff on an announcement that was made on an update on this story.
I want to initially announce that at 8:30 this morning, Jonathan Pentland was arrested for assault and battery 3rd degree, in reference to the video that we've all seen. It's a very disturbing video. It's one that we're not going to tolerate or condone in Richland County. And the message I want to give is that when something like that happens, the Sheriff's Department is going to act very swiftly, and we're going to hold those responsible for those accountable. We're not going to let people be bullies in our community, and if you are, then you're going to answer for it. And that's what we've done in this case. This case first came to our attention on Monday when our deputies responded and took initial reports. They did a good job at that point because they didn't rush to make judgments. They took the information and it was passed on investigators. Our investigators got it yesterday, but one of the most valuable pieces of evidence we had was the video. I want to thank whoever was responsible for that video. Thank you for doing that. That shows what our community can do when we work together. Taking videos, reporting stuff to us. Our initial call came from a citizen that lived in that community who saw the confrontation and called the Sheriff's Department and reported it to us. That's what we ask our citizens to do. When there's something going on in the community, call, let us respond so we can get involved and we can take care of it. And that's what happened in this case. That's what we all need to do. We have to work together to make sure that we prevent incidents that occurred on Monday from ever happening again. We can do that by working together.
Jennifer, I really want to believe that the right thing happened here because the right thing needed to happen, but I really believe, even if the video at all existed, if this wasn't the era of George Floyd and Dante Wright, right? I mean, that's the latest name on the list.
Yep.
Nothing would have happened here.
No, it would have been swept under the rug, or the incident or consequences would have been reversed. And the victim would have paid the price for being assaulted by this white man in this, what is
so at 3 o'clock sorry, Jennifer, I'm sorry.
It's fine. You're right.
At 3 o'clock our time, he was still in jail. So I know we get sometimes pedantry in the comments over here, right? So 3 o'clock our time, he was still in jail, 6 o'clock their time. He may be released. Bail was set at $500. So with bail was set, I can't imagine. I mean, that's a very low bar to get out. He's also under investigation by the U.S. Army. The Army went through the steps of stripping all of his social media pictures from the unit's Facebook page. So the Army has essentially erased him off of social media. Fort Jackson Commanding General Milford Beagle Jr. It's like a name out of a Stanley Kubrick movie, but that is his name. Milford Beagle Jr. tweeted, "This is by no means condoned by any service member. We will get to the bottom of this ASAP. Jennifer, General Beagle is also black."
Oh, okay. Okay.
But I don't think Pentland has anything to worry about. Because he'll just end up as a police officer somewhere, or in private security, or training cops somewhere. And I think that's going to be his next destination.
And who knows, maybe in 5 years we'll be watching his trial.
Unfortunately, that's just what I think. Community stood up. Good on you, South Carolina. You certainly are not thought of as this is a state. There are pictures, if you go up on social, where there was a huge protest outside of Jonathan Pentland's and his wife's house today. And those were people from the neighborhood out there that were sending a very clear message to them that, no, they don't represent their neighborhood. So good on you, South Carolina. And again, I think this is a really good example of how you can support somebody who is in a racist situation and they're not in full-on physical danger, but to document. If that video didn't exist, he wouldn't be getting the justice that he deserves. And he still may not get it, but we'll see.
Yeah. Another watch and see thing.
And with that, we'll go to our next segment. We had reported that Kim Potter had turned in her resignation, and I had predicted that that was a preemptive action on her part to protect her pension. You have to remember that Officer Kim Potter is a 26-year police veteran, Brooklyn Center. She was a former police union president as late as 2019, and she was a training officer. Not only was she a training officer, but on the night that, or I should say on the day that Duante Wright was killed by her accident, she was training the other officer that was with her. There's been 3 nights of unrest in Brooklyn Center and in the Minneapolis area. And, you know, as I predicted, it was preemptive on her part because Kim Potter was arrested.
As promised, let's return to that breaking news that prosecutors in the U.S. state of Minnesota say the white policewoman who fatally shot Duante Wright, a young black man, after a routine traffic stop, will be charged with second-degree manslaughter. Larry, just tell us more about the details that emerged about this charge.
We're now hearing that Kim Potter, this 26-year veteran of the Brooklyn Center Police Department, has been arrested. She was taken into custody around 11:30 this morning. That will be in the last 47 minutes. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, this is the investigating body, says they're still investigating what happened on Sunday, but she has been taken into custody and charges will be filed back here at Hennepin County Courthouse, where the trial of Derek Chauvin is happening for what he's accused of, the murder of George Floyd last May. This second-degree manslaughter charge, it's a single count right now, carries a maximum sentence of 10 years in the state of Minnesota and or a fine of $20,000. So she said she accidentally discharged her weapon, and you can hear her distress in the body-worn camera video that was released. She said, "Taser, taser, taser, I'm gonna tase you," she tells Duante Wright, and then she fires her gun. She had been with the force 26 years. She was a field training officer and is reported to have been actually training a rookie on the day this happened.
Potter's going to be arraigned in the exact same courthouse, Jennifer, where Derek Chauvin is having his trial.
Oh, that's gross. That's just so gross. I'm sorry, things are like a little laggy on my end, so I didn't see the video click on it first, so I was talking over part of it. Yeah, what's particularly gross about this is she's being charged with, I think it's second-degree manslaughter, which if convicted is about a 4-year sentence. 4 years. That's what Derek Chauvin, like if he's convicted of second-degree manslaughter for the murder of George Floyd, he will do about 4 years in prison. That's it.
There's been 2 nights of unrest over this in Seattle. Last night, SPD arrested 2 people under Seattle Municipal Code for graffiti chalk art and arrested another individual under Seattle Municipal Code for obstruction. We wrote about this on our website. Go ahead and hit the website button again, malcontentnews.com. We wrote about this on our website. They're pointless arrests because the prosecutor's office in Seattle has said they're not prosecuting these kind of charges.
I know, and it's what are they arresting them for? Is it like vandalism? Is it because they're wielding the dangerous pieces of chalk? Like, what is the rationale behind this other than to just kind of be petty? It looks petty.
It's chalk.
Yeah. It's, yeah.
There was a story that I read before we went on air. It's on Como. The headline caught my eyes because the headline was there's disparity in policing in Seattle, disparity in protests. You could go up on Como after our show, go find the story up there. It caught my eye because what I was expecting was like a deeper analysis of, and what they were comparing to was the arrest that the events that happened on Monday night versus the events that had happened last night. And on Monday night, windows got broken, there was more damage, and nobody was arrested. And Seattle police, in a total what the hell moment, their response was, well, on Monday they were moving. So yesterday people were stationary, and we'd asked them to leave a few times, and so they were easier to arrest. And what jumped out at me is like, and I know everybody's going to take this comment the wrong way. I shouldn't say that. Anybody who wants to malcontent news on either side is going to take this comment the wrong way. And other people are going to get it. The part, Jennifer, that just hurts my brain is, it's like, so what did Seattle police just tell the people that are protesting in Seattle? If you keep moving, you won't get arrested, even if you're breaking shit. Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
So, you know what I predict? I predict more groups of protesters moving, breaking stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Seattle police's official position is, well, we have no plan for that. And that's why I say some people are going to go, see, he's pro-police, he's fash. It's like, no, I'm just pointing out the stupidity and the hypocrisy of it. Rawr.
Yeah, it's so absurd.
Anyway, Jennifer, the other thing that I found gross here is that just BBC's coverage, like, this is what the world thinks of us.
Yeah.
Oh, in America, another motorist was killed by the police because this kind of thing just goes on there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it does. I mean, like, this whole idea of like American exceptionalism, and people want to think that for some reason we have this superior nation state whose actions were benign, and we are so different from the other nations, stand apart. But we're an empire. We do all these horrible, violent things just like empires do. And we don't have a good reputation around the rest of the world, not how we imagine ourselves. So it's not shocking to me because I see it quite frequently, but it shocks me how many other people it shocks that we are not popular around the world.
No, we're not. And I don't like it. And we'll continue to monitor the story of Kim Potter. Protests continue in Brooklyn Center tonight, but it does look like things are a little quieter there this evening. Jennifer, we're going to do a little pause for the cause. We're going to go to our next segment.
Okay.
Hi, Malcontents. I'm David, the Malcontent, and I'd like to talk to you for a moment about supporting independent media. When you support us, you help us bring the before, during, and after. You help us defend the First Amendment. You help us amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices, and you help us hold leaderships at a local, state, and federal level accountable. None of this would be possible without support by viewers just like you. When you become a patron for as little as $5 a month, you help buy technology, safety equipment, and help cover travel expenses so that we can continue to bring you news that you trust. If you can't become a patron, you can do a one-time donation on Venmo, and your dollars will go to the exact same causes. With your continued support, we can continue to amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices while showing the truth on what is happening in the world around us. Once again, thank you. And we do appreciate and love all of you who show your support on Patreon and on Twitch as subscribers and on Venmo. We actually have a new level on Patreon. It's just $2 a month. $2 a month, you can help keep the lights on and help keeping us bring independent journalism and great stories like we're about ready to have next. This is a time also, because we're at the bottom of the hour, to remind you, go ahead and spam those hearts. Mess with that Facebook algorithm. Let people know there's great content going over, or you can just give us a like if that's the way you're feeling. If you're watching us on Twitter, you can give us hearts over there too. If you are on YouTube or Twitch, you can put a long line of hearts, or I love you mods and love you admins. Remember, they are working very, very hard for you. Jennifer, Renee Rackety sat down with Nikkita Oliver, and Nikkita had a long discussion with Renee about their vision for Seattle and her ideas, or their ideas, for the city council. And they are running for seat 9 in the 2021 race.
Yeah, no, and I've had the luxury afforded to me of already watching this interview, and they give a phenomenal interview, and I think that people should pay close attention to this. And I'm really excited that Renee got to sit down with them, and we have this to share with people.
Yeah, one thing I will say, Nikkita had a lot to say, and I say that in the most complimentary way. So the interview is going to be broken up into 2 days. It would be about 2 sections of 17 minutes each if we showed it in a singular show. And we felt that having 35 minutes like that would be tough for the audience to digest. So we've divided it up into 2 parts. So we will have the second part tomorrow. And with that, I give you Renee and Nikkita.
As you know, Seattle is facing an ongoing crisis related to unhomed peoples. Washington State experienced a 6.2% increase in homelessness during the 2019-2020 year. King County spends over $1 billion per year in public and private investment in support of approximately 12,500 homeless people with disappointing results. If elected to the city council, what would you advocate and support to address this crisis?
We have a lot of work to do. We've been in a state of emergency around the housing crisis and supporting our loved ones who don't have homes since 2015. And a major part of the crisis is we just simply have not built enough housing. We have not actually invested ourselves in that. While we might be spending within our region lots of money on services, if we provide services but have nowhere for people to come inside who want to, then what we're doing is basically saying, we'll give you some services to survive, but we're not going to support you getting into housing where you'll have opportunities to thrive. And so a huge priority is looking at Seattle's comprehensive plan for 2024 and addressing issues around exclusionary zoning. The fact that we've only been developing density on 12% of the land, and we need to address the fact that single family zoning, as the way our city is set up now, is not going to allow us to develop enough housing in order to ensure that our loved ones who want to come inside can, and to be able to provide enough housing for the missing middle. Displacement and gentrification is also a part of the crisis that we're facing. So this is the reason why we spend money, but it continues to be ineffective. Some answers to this is Seattle getting into housing, actually building social housing that is affordable, that is also nice. People want to live in nice homes, and meets the needs of our community members. So continuing to make more investments in social housing. And we can't continue to rely upon the private market to be our answer to the housing crisis. There's just not a real incentive for the private market to actually respond to the need. So we need to be willing to actually drive some of the development if we're going to build $400 million a year for 10 years of affordable housing. And we need to figure out, how does our regional plan really work? I think for a lot of folks, they felt like Seattle saying we're a part of a regional plan has been a little bit of a cop-out and putting the majority of the work then on the county or other cities to respond. And I think the city needs to level up. We have a $6.2 billion budget. We have over 800,000 residents. And it is time that we really take accountability and responsibility for the ways in which development in our city and growth has actually been a part of exacerbating the housing crisis. And we also need to deal with the fact that our tax structure that allows us to generate, the way in which we generate revenue is very regressive. And it then ends up putting the burden of the cost of this new development and the services that we absolutely need to be providing on the backs of those who already pay the most in taxes, and those who pay the least and honestly have benefited the most from the development and growth continue to not really have to be invested and seeing our city become the healthiest city that it can be. We're also probably going to face a mass eviction crisis. So in addition to the crisis we were already in, COVID-19, the recession, and many people not being able to pay rent or their mortgages means that we also need to figure out, how do we stabilize folks who are still in their homes but maybe will be facing eviction? And so continuing to find ways to either cancel rent or do rental support or mortgage support to keep people in their homes. There's going to have to be a combination of responses that come from the city. And this is going to require us to really think about our priorities as a city. Are we willing to prioritize people being able to stay home and stay healthy? And the way that we do that is going to be investing in things that keep people from losing their homes and investing and building housing rapidly. And I know that it's been a challenge for our city to prioritize this in the past, but I think that with the right folks committed to seeing the interest of our city as a whole be served, we can actually move in that direction.
As a result of the ongoing COVID pandemic, economic recovery and development, as well as addressing Seattle's crumbling transit infrastructure, such as the West Seattle Bridge, is of great importance. Moreover, some are expressing concern businesses are leaving Seattle and workers will not return post-COVID. The question then is threefold. How does the council address crumbling infrastructure and aid in economic recovery and development as we move beyond COVID? And also, what concerns do you have about the loss of business, both large and small, and a loss of jobs within Seattle?
I think what we really have to grapple with as a city is that we cannot recover back to normal. We actually need to grapple with the fact that our social and economic safety net for most people is one that is ineffective. And as a result, that's why we are seeing such a huge economic crisis, because we have not ensured that all people have access to healthcare. We have not ensured that all people have access to affordable housing. And we have really failed to ensure that workers are protected. So really thinking about, how do we ensure that any employment that the city is involved in are union prevailing wage jobs? Thinking about the contracts we have, not just in terms of development and construction, but also expanding the conversation about prevailing wages and unionization to other industries that touch the city. There are tons of industries that we do contract work with that we could be pushing for those industries to actually treat workers right, to have the right working conditions, hazard pay, and to ensure that people have high wage jobs. This is a really important part of knowing that disasters are going to come. This is not the last time that we see this. And as a result, if we're going to build a social and economic safety net that works for everyone, anything that the city is invested in needs to push contractors or industries that we work with to make sure that people have high wage jobs that pay health care and benefits. And that's just thinking forward in terms of protecting us, protecting people, protecting workers when additional crises does come. The West Seattle Bridge and other bridges, other infrastructure in our city is of huge concern. The Move Seattle levy expires in 2024. This was a 2015 levy, and in many ways, it's actually fell short of the promises that taxpayers voted for. So the first thing that I think the city actually has to do when it comes to our crumbling infrastructure is explaining why that levy did not fulfill the promise that we made to voters. In order to, as a way of, that explanation being a pathway towards saying, is it possible to continue this levy? Will you all vote for it again? Here's the explanation of why it fell short. Here's how we will address those shortcomings in the future. But getting our infrastructure up to par is important for a number of reasons. It's not just about safety, but it's certainly about safety. But it's also understanding that if we want to be able to keep our maritime and port industries healthy, which are significant jobs in our region and also an important part of moving goods, not just through Seattle, but to other regions in Washington state, including thinking about the eastern part of the state, the fruit basket, then we need to ensure that the infrastructure around the port is solid so that freights can move in and out without issue. This is also about our environment. When freights are backed up and not able to move through the port in a timely manner, we're seeing way more pollution, both in terms of exhaust, but also noise pollution happening in neighborhoods that already face some of the highest levels of pollution. So this is also a health concern. Addressing our crumbling infrastructure touches a myriad of areas of life, from environment to industry and economic well-being, to also the health of communities that many of these industries are moving through. Considering in 2024, providing that clear explanation on what some of the challenges were. It's not just the West Seattle Bridge. It's also thinking about North Seattle and East-West buses, sidewalks for safety. It's looking at the bridges in other areas of our city that are also deteriorating, and we don't want to see them in the same situation that the West Seattle Bridge is, where it's been closed down for almost a year. And then we need to consider thinking about how does this impact our transit infrastructure. And the transit infrastructure also plays a major role in thinking about the well-being of workers, the ability to move through the city or in and out of the city in a way that doesn't require you to spend 2 hours of your day doing that. Most of our families cannot afford to do that. And so we have to understand that transit and the accessibility of our city is also tied to the economic well-being of folks. My concerns are about many of our small businesses that are owned by Black, Indigenous people of color, who really have suffered through the pandemic without having access to all of the things that allow their businesses to sustain. I'm also thinking about folks who are freelancers, some of whom have been able to get access to unemployment, but for many of whom it took a very long time to get that access to unemployment. So maybe they've become backed up on rent or other types of bills that they're later going to have to find ways to pay. And so this is where canceling rent or having rental support programs, finding ways that maybe mortgages can be canceled or mortgage support programs, having rent stabilization on commercial properties is going to be huge. But also the city has taken emergency measures that have been really significant in allowing small businesses to continue to function. One of these is folks being able to run their small businesses out of their homes if they have particular detached units. This is a creative option that has not been allowed to exist prior to the pandemic. And one thing the pandemic has shown us is there are things that we could have done long before that we didn't do because we said we couldn't, but then we found out in a state of emergency that we could. Sustaining some of those measures are going to be key to ensuring that small businesses, freelancers are able to thrive. And then moving forward, how are we ensuring that our folks that work in tech, and I'm thinking like about our Uber drivers or folks that are delivering food who are part of our gig economy, what are we doing to ensure that those folks are able to get access to healthcare and benefits? Because we've seen through the pandemic that has not been possible for a lot of folks. We need to keep talking about what does it look like to have a gig workers package that ensures those safety measures, hazard pay, healthcare benefits, so that again, when disaster does come again, because this is not going to be the last thing we face, the climate catastrophe is really upon us. We need to make sure that people are prepared and they have access to the social and economic safety nets that work.
And so as a result of the protests related to the murder of George Floyd, police violence, and ongoing racial inequality, Seattle has earned a reputation as being a crime-ridden, dirty, and unsafe city. And at one point, the city was even labeled by the past presidential administration as an anarchist jurisdiction. Do you agree with this view?
I do not agree with this view. And I think in many ways, this view was created by mainstream media outlets not telling the whole story. And so I think it's really important that we tell whole stories, acknowledge what's really been happening in our city, which is actually drastically different than that. I'm not sure if you want more detail, but I certainly have lots of thoughts in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to know, how are we going to shift perceptions?
I think we shift perceptions by building the city we want to see. We don't control mainstream media, but what we do control is the way in which our city continues to move and develop. Some of our elected officials need to actually take accountability for statements that they made during the protest that were then leveraged by media outlets, both locally and nationally, to paint a picture of a city in crisis. And that's not what was happening in our city. I understand that there were things that happened in CHOP that caused a lot of pain for people. And in fact, those things were happening in other areas of our city in terms of folks being shot and killed. And when we make that issue about just one area of our city, we actually miss the underlying issues that are the reasons why certain types of gun violence are happening. And they're economic reasons, they're social reasons. We have areas in Seattle that have been redlined historically, that have experienced exclusionary zoning, are over-policed and lack social services. Many of them are also food deserts. And they're not what we would call, kind of in the urban development sphere, communities of opportunity. And by that, I mean these neighborhoods are lacking economic opportunity, educational opportunity, and the services that ensure people can thrive. So while some areas of our city are growing into these urban villages that have grocery stores that have great produce, or have access to medical facilities, and have access to social services, there are other areas of our cities that are being inequitably developed and are not receiving that same attention and growth to ensure that we do the things that actually prevent violence. This is not conjecture, and it's not me just making up a story. We know that through social science, when people have their basic needs met and they have access to economic and educational opportunity, then violence decreases substantially. We have communities, though, who have been historically and presently disenfranchised from the access to that opportunity, while the wealth of white folks in our region has continued to grow, and those communities continue to have access to higher earner jobs. The wealth of Black communities has actually continued to decrease. And there is a huge gap between who is gaining in the areas of income and wealth. And poverty has an extreme impact upon the likelihood of violence or quote unquote crime in an area. So if we really want to be about public safety, if we really want to be about addressing historical, racial trauma and harm and anti-Black policies, then what we will do is figure out how to uproot and undo the issue of poverty. And we will invest in communities, we'll invest in Black communities, we'll invest in Native communities, in the ways in which we know actually begin to alleviate and end the crisis of poverty. And that's what we need to be willing to address if we want to get to a safer, healthier, more holistic Seattle. And that's the vision I have for Seattle, is one where we grapple with racism and white supremacy, and one where we do the work of dismantling and addressing uprooting poverty so we can have that safe Seattle we envision.
What a great interview. Just, and Renee did an absolutely amazing job. That's the first half. There's a lot more tomorrow. Oh, excuse me, tomorrow. Jennifer, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, the responses to the questions were phenomenal. I appreciated that they took a little time to historicize some of the things, and also, the really very elaborate and thorough response to housing, thinking about preventing evictions. I think those are all really important things, and the depth of those answers were very impressive.
One of the things that jumped out at me is when she was talking about transportation and infrastructure and their thoughts on the Port of Seattle, the impact of pollution, the critical need of having a highly functional port. And that ties into West Seattle, but they expressed a huge depth of areas that not even on my radar, but as they brought them up, it was, ooh, good point. Ooh, good point. Ooh, good point. Great interview.
They're clearly well-versed in Seattle's history and the neighborhoods and the things that are happening within the city. And I think that is such a hugely fundamental thing candidates should have. And so far I've been, extremely impressed with their responses to the questions that Renee posed to them. And kudos again to Renee. What a great interview. So I'm really excited when we will be able to air the rest of this tomorrow.
Yeah. We will have the second part of Nikkita Oliver tomorrow. With that, we're going to do a brief pause for the cause, and then we're going to do our Chauvin update.
Okay.
Black Coffee is a hub for communities and a hub for meeting people, making friends, and understanding.
What Black Coffee is to me is a place to actually call home, a place where Black youth will feel welcomed, where Black families will come and feel like they're at home.
What we're trying to build is more than just coffee. Community is something that we do naturally. We know who's in the community, we know what the deficits are, and we're trying to fix that. We want to bring people together.
My hope is that the phrase grounded in excellence shows up everywhere and that it becomes a movement.
I'm looking forward to hanging out at Black Coffee with my friends and feeling safe.
Black Coffee to me means opportunity for people like me and my other friends and family to come here and do homework safely and hang out and stuff like that.
That is happening. It is happening.
Black Coffee Northwest is located in Shoreline, Washington on Highway 99, close to 170th. They're on the west side of the highway. Drive-thru is open Monday through Friday. Lobby is open on the weekends. They have amazing coffee. They have amazing merch. And be sure to get the potato scones. It's like a baked potato with cheese and onion and a fluffy scone had a baby, and they're delicious, and I want one so bad.
I know the last 3 shows, I don't know if you've noticed, but I beat you to the punch on telling people to get the potato scones in the comments. But also, did you notice I came back from a break and I'm still in the same sweatshirt? It was super cold earlier in the show. So I was like doing wardrobe changes every time we had a pause. I'm good now. I'm good.
It's an offline conversation about wardrobe changes between segments. It's a conversation that I'm actually having with somebody, if that's something I should be doing or not. So, but yes, you have been doing, let's have this look, let's have that look. But you continue to be doing the 80s rocker look as you did in the last show, and it totally works. With that, let's go to the Chauvin update.
Okay. Oh, so we are now into day 13 or day 14 of the trial, and the defense is presenting their case, what little case they have, because as the prosecution dominated, the first 11, 12 days of the trial, they estimate that the defense will be ready to rest as soon as the end of Thursday, giving jurors the day off on Friday, and then going into closing arguments the following Monday, followed by sequestering the jury so they can come to a verdict. But thus far, the defense has really been pushing this idea that George Floyd did not die as a result of Derek Chauvin's actions, but rather pre-existing conditions and his drug issue. So I know we have a clip that you have queued up, David, so why don't you go ahead and play that?
Now, you agree that as an expert witness, you shouldn't jump to conclusions. That is, you should reach fair conclusions based upon a careful, considered analysis.
That is correct, yes.
Do you agree that you shouldn't come at this in a way that's biased? You agree with that, don't you?
Absolutely agree with that, yes.
You shouldn't cherry pick facts.
No.
You shouldn't try to confuse the jury.
Correct.
So would it be fair to say, in order to say that the white substance in Mr. Floyd's mouth was a pill, in light of what you've seen, that would be jumping to a conclusion, wouldn't it?
Specifically, when I testified, I said there was a white object in his mouth. That's all I could discern from that, and I remember saying that under direct.
So you are not then either telling or suggesting to the jury that the white substance was a pill, are you?
I never said it was a pill. I carefully said that I could see a white structure in his mouth.
Dr. Fowler, just answer
and I did not want to classify it, and I didn't classify it.
If you just answer my question.
Yes.
You're not either telling or suggesting to the jury that the white substance was a pill, are you?
No.
Tell us you have a case when you don't have a case for defense.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's the thing. Everything, this man, this Fowler, Dr. Fowler, is supposed to be a medical expert. He is a medical expert. Apparently, from my understanding, he actually volunteered to come forth. He is getting paid, but he actually volunteered the information for his kind of alternative set of facts as to how George Floyd died. He offered to kind of fill, the void the defense had. But anything that to argue today, the prosecution basically just was like, no, hey, you said this, but we have receipts. It was actually pretty fantastic. And a lot of it was spent. There was the Derek Chauvin is only 140 pounds. There's no way he could have caused that kind of damage. Then the prosecution was like, hey, did you factor in the amount of gear and the weight of that gear he was wearing? There was him saying that, at points he wasn't in a chokehold. Then the prosecution would come back and be like, okay, here's this picture. Have you not seen this picture? You should be more familiar with the facts of the case. Then they were trying to push this agenda that somehow George Floyd had drugs in his mouth and had spit them out in the back of the police car. But he had actually been chewing on something white in the store. They found candy wrappers in the vehicle. And so they were not, there's no nothing clear that states that George Floyd was spitting out drugs during the arrest. He did have fentanyl, like we talked about before, fentanyl and methamphetamine in his system. But as the previous medical examiner who declared the cause of death homicide, he said that they were levels that are normally associated with people who are still alive, meaning it didn't kill him. So they're still trying to, they've had a couple of their medical experts come on and basically say that, yeah, the cause of death wasn't, him sitting on his neck for 9 minutes, this, asphyxia, as others have argued for the prosecution, who had 38 expert witnesses versus, the handful the defense has had. So it's really like the defense has put up a really poor case. It almost looks as though they're not prepared, but how do you prepare for something like this? Because the prosecution brought their A++ game.
Maybe watch the Donald Trump impeachment trial and they're expecting the same treatment that Donald Trump got.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, so it's definitely very interesting. And like I said, I don't anticipate at this point, because there hasn't been any chatter about it, that Chauvin himself is going to testify. But there's still it only needs to be that reasonable doubt. And again, like I talked about, even if he gets second-degree manslaughter, he will serve a maximum of 4 years in jail, 4 years for his actions. And this is just this action. He had 6 previous issues with excessive use of force that the jury didn't hear about. But what was interesting to me is the analysts were talking about, they were like, because of course reporters go in and they do updates on everything that's going on in the courtroom. And they're like, well, juror 13 is napping again as usual. They seem very relieved that, they're going on mid-morning break. So you have to wonder about the state of the jurors, at this moment in time, when they've listened to, countless hours again of expert jargon-filled testimony, and how many of them are, I hate to say not taking this as seriously as they should, but if you're taking naps during the trial, that's probably not a good sign.
Justice America style, Jennifer. Thank you for keep doing the updates, and we will keep monitoring that story. And on the subject of story, let's end on a high note and go to our last story.
Now, you agreed.
We were going to end on a high note. Oh, you got to be kidding me.
What is going on?
We're going to end on a high note.
Are we doing a comedy show tonight? I'm just curious between the work and the technical difficulties. Is this like Monty Python-esque, like some weird thing we've got going on here?
I'm broken. I'm totally...
Tell me you're not liberal without telling me.
What are we doing?
I do not absorb information from the lamestream media.
Okay, Rashi, this is for you. We're going to end on a high note. We did it! Only took 4 tries.
4 takes
The rest-
on live stream. Yeah, live stream. Cool. I had time to change like twice, David.
All right, I have to get serious. It's been like months and it's been this bad. And I tested all the macros like twice. I just, The restaurant community is still struggling. And East Side restaurant support and a number of Chamber of Commerces across the entire East Side, literally from as far out as Black Diamond, as far south as Renton, as far out as Issaquah, all up along Lake Washington, have all come together to create East Side Restaurant Week. I hope this macro button works. We're with Angela Rosman and Samantha St. John. Angela, Samantha, how are you doing this afternoon?
Very well.
Angela, you've been working with Samantha, who is the president of the Kirkland Chamber of Commerce, as well as a number of other Chamber of Commerces on the East Side to create Restaurant Week that is coming up on April 19th.
It's pretty exciting. We're going into the spring weather. It's beautiful outside right now. And things are really starting to look up and be hopeful as far as where we've come over the last year with COVID. Things are really tough for our restaurants still. And you might see people posting about how they're eating out a bunch online and that sort of thing. But ultimately, you know, we may not be at the 10% that we were previously, but restaurants are still really, really hurting. We're not out of the woods yet. And so we really wanted to have this East Side Restaurant Week to really support our local restaurants so that we see them make it through. I just heard of another restaurant today that closed in Kirkland.
And Samantha, as the president of the Chamber of Commerce in Kirkland, you've been on the front lines in trying to support businesses for the last 15 months, navigating what feels like a new normal.
This has been quite the time for our local businesses. I mean, they have a great attitude. They have adapted to every restriction that is put in front of them for good reason, and they've all done their part. And now it's time for us to do our part to really make sure that they don't go under after they have really stepped up to the plate to make us safe.
Especially where we can almost see the finish line to all of this. It seems like it's in reach at this point.
And we wanted to do something different than your typical restaurant week, which is usually, you know, a separate menu and discounts. We haven't asked them for any separate menu or any discounts. We want you to go out and support them full price, but check out maybe a new restaurant that you've never tried before, or make sure to go to that restaurant that's like your favorite weekly spot that you absolutely would be heartbroken to miss.
What's in it for people other than learning about some great new eats in their neighborhoods?
There's nothing on the restaurant side that they have to do to participate as a restaurant. They just need to sit back and watch the customers come in. From the customer side, we ask that they take our suggestions of the cuisine of the day for 8 days. And when they go to that restaurant that maybe falls in that cuisine, or if they don't like that particular cuisine, that's fine too. Just find a local restaurant, take a photo of it and hashtag Eastside Eats, put it on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and make sure it's public. And you will be entered into a drawing for a prize each day that will be selected to people eating out and supporting their local restaurants.
That's fantastic. So the only thing then a person needs to do after ordering from a restaurant is just make sure they put on the social with the hashtag and have it public. I understand that you also have additional business support for this effort.
So actually, every single East Side Chamber of Commerce has signed on to be part of this challenge by sponsoring a $100 gift card. That's the Kirkland Chamber, Bellevue, Redmond, Maple Valley, Snow Valley, Woodinville, Issaquah, Renton. I mean, it's pretty much the whole greater East King County.
Well, I know that I have some favorites that I'll be planning to do some takeout from, and I'm going to be sure to put my picture up there with the hashtags. Angela, Samantha, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Jennifer, this is a great thing for a community. As somebody who works in the business community, I know a lot of people are like, we can see the end of the tunnel, but I know there's people that are very nervous on if they're going to get to the end of the tunnel. So this is a program to really help the restaurant community get to that finish line as we continue to work to try to get COVID under control.
Yeah, because I think, wasn't it last year, they estimated a significant number of restaurants would actually close down permanently as a result of COVID by June of this year. So this is a step in the right direction for them and kind of helping them get over that final hurdle. Should we achieve some degree of normalcy soon, and they can, go back to at least some kind of steady business.
So Jennifer, we can do a little back and forth on this one here, just so to make this a little more interesting. Starts on April 19. So April 19 is a Monday, this upcoming Monday. And the first Monday is Italian, Greek, and pasta. And I can tell you right now, I will be getting lunch from the Acropolis in Kirkland on Monday. That's like, you can carve that in stone. That is going down.
Well, Monday is Italian, Greek, and pasta day. Tuesday is Asian day, which encompasses a wide variety of dishes. And I'm sure there's going to be all sorts of options for people like me who are vegan to go out. I don't have like a favorite restaurant per se, just anywhere that will serve me like vegan spring rolls. So I'm sure I will be able to find some.
Wednesday is healthy day. And I realize that some people may translate healthy as I'm going to have meat wrapped in meat, cooked in oil that came from meat with more meat. And if that's your translation of healthy, more power to you. But I don't think that that's what their intent is. But anyway, Wednesday is healthy.
Thursday, we have burgers and brews. So go out and get yourself a nice, some kind, I don't drink beer. So like maybe an IPA, I know what that is. And a burger, a cheeseburger with bacon, and then think about me while you're eating it because I can't.
You can get a vegan burger though.
It's okay. Leave it alone.
Friday is Mexican, and I've added Latin American and South American in the spirit of Mexican. That's my own little add on there. I realize that doesn't align with Taco Tuesday, but I'm going to let it go. But Friday, get your spice on, I would say.
Saturday, we have Indian food, which is another place where you can get your spice on.
Next Saturday, there may be some Royal India in my future. Haven't eaten there. God, it's been too long. It's sad. Sunday is Meat with more meat wrapped in meat. It could be. Sunday is indulgences, so you can go and indulge yourself. And if you want to indulge yourself, hold that thought. Meat wrapped in meat, cooked in meat, and then boiled in meat. That could be your indulgence on Sunday. All right.
Okay, so can I just say how funny it is that they have indulgences on Sunday? Okay. Church joke, big fail. Okay. Monday, we have BIPOC and women-owned restaurants. So if you are like on the fence and none of this sounds good, you should go out Monday to support BIPOC and women-owned businesses.
Kirkland Peeps, Lilac Cafe. That's what I'm going to go ahead and recommend. BIPOC and woman-owned. And they do Lynn does so much for the community that a lot of people don't see. And I know, like, clinging like that. And amazing food, and they have an amazing lunch menu there. And then there's a bonus. If you are part of the Muslim community and you are practicing for Ramadan, this, of course, makes this a problem. So there's a bonus category of restaurants that serve after sunset and before dawn. And at first we go, well, that's a lot of places. Actually, in the age of COVID right now, it's pretty hard to find places that are open super early or late at night because the sun is rising earlier and earlier and it is setting later and later. So that's actually a little bit of a challenging category.
Yeah, no, and that's great. I'm actually going to share that with my students because there's a lot of students in my history course this quarter that are actually in doing Ramadan right now. So yeah, I will make sure to share that with them.
So what you need to do, you need to post a picture on social, Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. So you go to one of these restaurants, you get takeout. You can dine in if you want. We're trying to keep restaurants open and not have a fourth phase. Do takeout.
Mm-hmm.
Post a picture, as I said, Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. You make sure that the setting is public. If you post to your Facebook page and it's not set public, nobody can see it. Hashtag Eastside Eats, $100 gift card, 1 entry per day, any Eastside restaurant. There is no such thing as, is this a participating restaurant? It is any Eastside restaurant. So just find somewhere new, or I listed a couple of my faves. Go to a fave. I already mentioned please do takeout. And if you can, not do this as a one and done. If you could be like, that's why I'm going to do lunches, because then I can do a little bit more, because I know it's pricey to eat out every night. But if you can maybe not do it one and done, hit a few places, or even run the board, that would really, really help the business community out. It's a great program. We love Angela. We love Samantha. We love the work that the Chamber is doing. And I love the inclusivity of this and the idea. Angela does so much on Eastside restaurant support. And remember, a lot of people that you don't see in restaurants, the people in the kitchens, the people that are cleaning, these people are BIPOC, they're minorities, they're immigrants. You're helping keeping these people in jobs. The other thing, Jennifer, I'll add, is that sometimes people poo-poo on franchise restaurants, but remember, not all franchise restaurants are owned by large corporations.
Yes.
A lot of franchise restaurants are actually owned by local owners. So I'm not advocating for Subway, but, there could be, I guess Burgers and Brews, you can kind of squint. That Subway very well could be a local owner, and they could really be struggling. So if you have like a chain that you like, look in and find out who actually owns that physical chain. You may actually find it's a minority person that's next door. There you go. If you had a Subway owned by somebody BIPOC, there's your next Monday.
Exactly. And share it if you don't want to indulge or do it. Share it with other people who might be interested, and help support business owners in the area who have been struggling like a lot of other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Jennifer, we got an amazing show for tomorrow.
No, and I'm going to wear one outfit, I swear.
And hopefully with no bloopers. I hope somebody on Twitch has cut the little bloopers out, because it must have just been, it's got to be hysterical to go back and look at it. We have the second half of Nikkita Oliver and their interview and their views on the vision for the city of Seattle. Nikkita Rice of Eastside Embrace is going to be with us. And we have a story about rescuing boonie dogs from Guam. And there are dogs that are being rescued from Guam that are actually arriving on a flight from Seattle tonight. And we're going to have an exclusive story, this amazing story about these beautiful dogs.
Oh, yay. We're going to end the week on a feel-good note. Or
We are totally, it's actually, unless, we'll have the Chauvin update.
Yeah.
But we have potential for a feel-good show.
Yeah.
As long as something bad doesn't happen in the next 24 hours. I know. Jennifer, we'll do it all again tomorrow.
Yes, we will. In one outfit, I swear.
I'm going to play Rifle Wife one more time, and then we're going to end it.
Do it. Good night, guys.
Without telling me you're not liberal.
I do not absorb information from the lamestream media. I get all my news from reputable sources, like my uncle in Arkansas. Vegetables? Hell no! I only eat meat stuffed with meat, covered in different kinds of meat, and then wrapped in a pocket made of meat, and then deep fried in fats taken from meat. My personality starts and stops at Donald Trump. My wife is a rifle. I am incredibly insecure, but I mask that insecurity with a little trick I like to call Jordan Peterson. Once a week, I write a Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity romantic fan fiction. Every morning, I make a piece of avocado toast and then shoot it with my rifle wife. My resume is a photocopy of the U.S. Constitution, which I love, but have never actually read.
Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with 3 key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals, including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent.
You fit the profile. You're the malcontent.
Nobody wants to hear the nonsensical ravings of a loudmouth malcontent.
He said malcontents Antifa. Fuck you.
You are the biggest hypocrite on the face of the planet.
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say.